Liz Truss, the previous Prime Minister who resigned after just 45 days in office, said that she was not given a realistic chance to put her policies in place and that she had a lack of support in her party. She wrote this in, I believe, in the Sunday Telegraph. This one, or whatever it was, yes. Is Liz just passing the blame onto someone else, or does she have a point and it wasn't really her fault?
So I'll say something. I saw an interesting quote, I think, on Laura Koonsberg in the BBC recently, which said that one senior minister told her recently, Truss was right but mad. Rishi is competent and wrong. I tend to go along with that. I must say, I think her ideas were 100% right. She had to change something and go for growth, slash taxes, encourage investment. I think those are the right ideas, and it's demonstrated by her majority from the party membership. I voted for her. I don't regret it. I think she's agreed herself. Some of the way she went about it was wrong. I think they struggled, and this is true. I think she said that the left-wing establishment sort of didn't give her a chance to carry out her plans.
Even her own establishment didn't give her a chance.
As well, perhaps, absolutely.
Slightly bizarre to call Rishi Sunak the left-wing establishment.
It is, but that's how politics has gone. So everyone's fighting over the centre. Is it left-wing or centre? But to me, the Tory party has very much moved much too far, not left, but centre. And the Tory party, as we knew it, as I knew it, as I identify with it, is almost non-existent. There's a small rump
do you think
MPs.
she should be given another chance?
You can't. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. She can't get another chance. She made a right mess of things. Don't get me wrong. It was, and the mistake was obviously not passing it by the OBR. But what I want to say is, it shows how the markets and things perceive things. When the government borrowed, and rightly so, probably £400 billion for the COVID support schemes, all the various different schemes they rolled out, the markets were fine. Didn't jitter. When Truss and Quarten wanted to borrow, I think, £45 billion to fund some tax cuts to boost growth. And encourage investment in the economy, all the markets had a wobbly, they went into meltdown and they went crazy. So that's 10% borrowing of what they did for COVID. So it shows it's all about perception and stuff. Do I think it was the right idea? Yes. Unfortunately, they went about it the wrong way, and I think the reason is probably they didn't go to the OBR because probably they knew the OBR would.
What's the OBR again?
The OBR is the Office of Budget Responsibility, which is it's meant to be an independent.
And she didn't go to double check.
And she didn't. So they verify the figures the government's putting forward, how that would impact the economy. I think the OBR is stuff full of left wing, former head of Resolution Foundation think tanks and those sorts of people. And therefore, I think that's why she didn't run it by the OBR, and that's what obviously sent the markets into meltdown and gave them the fears. But I think she was right in her ideas.
12 years this government's been in power and he's claiming the OBR is stuffed with left-wing economic people. The fact is that the problem with the proposals was...
Do you also like Liz? Do you also like Liz?
As a person, not the issue. It's clear that she caused massive harm to our economy, to people's mortgages, people's job insecurity and people's inflation. Look, the issue here is she produced a set of proposals that were totally uncostly. It's not that she didn't just pass the OBR, it's she didn't cost. The consequences of those proposals, right? That's the first thing I would say to you. Absolutely.
Not uncosted, the consequences, you saying?
She did.
The tax cuts were costed. It was £45 billion. It was the package was £45 billion.
To pay for the package that she was proposing. That is a basic that you expect of a competent Prime Minister and a competent Chancellor of the Exchequer. She then bypassed the OBR, as David has said. But what makes me absolutely astonished by this argument is the Conservative Party, through its history, has said, we understand the markets, the Labour Party doesn't. Okay, trust us with the economy. If you vote Labour, you'll spook the markets. These gals are now claiming the markets are all controlled by left-wing revolutionaries. I mean, they are extraordinary in their lack of self-awareness.
No, not the markets, the OBR, Ivan.
Extraordinary in their lack of self-awareness. Liz Truss said today she was a victim of left-wing economic establishment brought her down.
I quite agree.
So
I quite agree.
Suggesting that the markets are controlled by the likes of no doubt.
Are you talking about OBR?
Not the markets. The OBR is controlled, and that's why she didn't go to the OBR. The markets are controlled by the investors. The markets are controlled by the markets.
You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say we have systems that determine stability and credibility. OBR was part of that system. The markets are the markets, okay? And the markets, but obviously people want growth, by the way. This is such a false choice. Obviously, everybody believes that a part of our economy recovering is generating growth in the economy.
It's about how you stimulate that growth.
Liz Truss to come along, after they've been in power, for 10, 11 years and suddenly say what we need is growth. It's for the birds. I mean, Boris told us that he had this levelling up agenda, by the way. That was all about growth, but it was growth across the country, not just in London and the South East. So they're trying to rewrite history, these people. She's deluded, okay? At the end of the day, she made a terrible mistake. I don't think that, she's entitled to a future. We all make mistakes, okay? But she's never going to return to a senior position in the front line of politics because she tanked our economy. And she tanked it at a time when people were scared and insecure to start with, okay? And you know why she tanked it? Because she didn't listen. She was arrogant, along with her Chancellor, Mr. Kwarteng. They were completely arrogant. The first thing they did on day one was sack the head of the Treasury, okay? I'll tell you now,
the right thing to do.
The head of the Treasury...
You've got to have your own people in there.
The head of the Treasury was a highly respected individual.
He was.
At a time when we needed economic stability. So these people, in my view, approach these things in a reckless manner. And some of what they wanted to do, of course we would all sign up to, but it was done, the whole package was put together recklessly. And the other thing they did was, they wanted to cut taxes of the very wealthiest and those at the top to stimulate growth. Totally unjustifiable at a time when everybody else is feeling excessive pain. So there always has to be a balance between tax policy and spending policy and generating growth, okay? But the problem with this was it was reckless, it was arrogant, okay? And she wasn't prepared to listen to anybody. So now to try and rewrite history because it went so badly wrong, you know what she should really have is a period of silence. Okay? Where she thinks about what happened.
She did for the past few months.
It's 100 days, Ivan. It's 100 days.
It's
over 100 days.
I think she should say, we all make mistakes. I'm really sorry. I still think I've got a lot.
She's said that. She's said that many times.
I think I've got a lot to offer. Okay. Not a word of humility in this. It's all trying to say, I was brought down by other people. I am not taking responsibility for what happened. The responsibility lies with others.
Have you read the article? Have you read the article?
I've read exactly what you've just described.
I haven't read it. Have you read the article? I haven't. I'll be honest. I have not read it. Have you read it?
I have read the reports of the article.
You've not read the article. So for you to say there's not one word of humility in there, I'm sorry, Ivan, it's not on.
Okay.
It's not on.
Well,
let's read the article first.
It's not to spin, because this is spun.
You've not read the article. You've not read the article.
She and her advisors have spun.
This is ridiculous.
The reason it all ended in tears was because she was a victim of some left-wing economic establishment conspiracy.
No.
That shows complete arrogance and a lack of humility.
You've read the BBC reports of the article, as have I. But Ellie, I think to ask a question now without either of us having seen the article, I think it's not helpful.
What's going on in the Conservative Party is that Liz Truss and her allies, right, do not approve of the direction of travel that Rishi Sunak is taking.
Most of the Conservative Party don't.
This is a fight for the Conservative
Party. For the ideology of the
party.
Absolutely,
right? And
absolutely.
she's trying to reclaim that ground, not necessarily for her personally, but for that group of people in the Conservative Party who shares that agenda. She's exactly the wrong person to do that because she's so deeply discredited. And if I was them, if they want to pursue their ideological view of what needs to happen, I would find a different standard bearer, quite frankly.
Yes. Do you want to do any final words?
Just remind me the question. What was the question again?
The question was, is Liz just passing the blame onto someone else, or does she have a point and it really wasn't her fault?
Right, so what I'm saying is she definitely has a point. I think her plans were the correct plans. They were right. Absolutely, she said herself she's made a mistake and she's apologised umpteen times, Abner. And to go on and on about, what she should really do, what she ought to do is apologise, she's done that. And she agrees she's wrong and she said she made mistakes, even in the BBC reports. That I suspect you've read the same reports I have of the article.
She's trying to say, I was right, but I was
brought
down by other forces.
And I agree.
Okay.
And I agree. I agree. If she comes there wanting to do radical things in the Treasury, it makes absolute sense to have her own people in there and to get rid of Tom Scholar. Well respected and very able as he may well be. She wants to drive through things that have not happened in the past. And to say that Boris had an agenda of levelling up, we all know Boris's agenda was hijacked by COVID and that was it. So he had a short few months in office. He got Brexit done and he got that done. And then he started with his agenda. COVID hit. That was
David,
2 years out. To say, being in power 12 years, it's not.
As a conservative, let me ask you a question. Why did the markets react the way they did? The markets are not controlled by some radical left-wing
and I never
forces.
said that.
So why did they react in the way they did? That is what brought her down.
That was terribly thought through.
Why, Dave?
That was terribly thought through. That it wasn't funded and costed.
They were spooked by her policies.
Not by her policies, by the fact that it was unfunded. 100%.
Well, that's part of her
And
policy.
she's
It's a pretty
no,
central part of her policy,
no, it is not.
not describing how it's fully funded.
Absolutely. Her policies were on tax, on growth.
But you have to fund your policies.
That's not the policies.
Isn't
That
it-
was a mistake, and
isn't
she
it
agreed
part-
that
isn't
was a
it
mistake.
part-
But what I'm saying is the
No,
reason
David,
why
isn't
she
it-
didn't go and have them funded and costed was because she didn't trust the independence of the OBR and the
So-
other think tanks out there
so who did
would
she
have
trust today?
poo-pooed it.
Oh, so who did she trust?
Unfortunately, too
trust in
few,
herself.
her and her chancellor and very few others probably to earn a circle. And you can't run government like that. She tried to do things. She said herself,
yeah.
she's too fast and too deep, and she should have stepped back and taken a bit of time over it. But she promised that much in a leadership campaign. She was
Okay.
in hot
I mean,
pursuit,
what
sort
Rishi
of.
Sunak has said, obviously at the time, he said, if you do this, you will fuel inflation. You will not dampen inflation with massive tax cuts at this time. In other words, Rishi Sunak and other politicians would favour tax cuts at the right time, would favour going for growth at the right time, but at that particular time, when the enemy is inflation, the argument was that this will fuel inflation, not dampen it. And that's what he warned, didn't he? He said in the Conservative Leadership Party contest, if you pursue these policies, my opponent, Liz, you'll tank the economy. That's what he said. And what happened?
And what did Liz
And
Truss
happened?
say?
And what happened?
What did Liz Truss
And
say?
what happened?
What did Liz Truss say?
What happened?
If you do nothing different, you'll go back to managed decline, establishment economics. Oh no, higher taxes,
we don't
higher
need to have managed
spend,
decline.
same as Conservative
We don't need
Labour,
to have
pretty
managed
much the
decline. We don't
same.
need to have
Well, that's when it
managed
goes back to the old establishment. This is what we do:
No.
we tax more,
No.
we spend more, and no growth.
Was it
This
also-
country
can I
suffers
say
anemic growth historically
Can
through
I
Labour
say
governments,
something?
through
Whoever's-
Conservative governments, and she went for something radical.
Whoever-
She had the right. She wanted to do something completely different, and
Reckless.
unfortunately, it was reckless. In
okay,
fact,
so-
she,
So
it
whoever-
wasn't
whoever
thought through
was
to
in
the
government,
end.
whoever was
But
in
her
government-
ideas, what I'm saying,
Whoever
is
was
her
in-
plans, her policies. And I must take up on tax cuts, Ivan, because you keep on saying taxes for the wealthy, taxes for the wealthy.
Her
It's
proposal-
incorrect.
Elements of her proposal, yes.
And I'll tell you
Elements of
why
her
that's
proposal.
wrong. Because when the Conservatives, I think, reduced the top rate of tax from 50 to 45, was it? When Labour in government was at 50%, 50p, and we reduced it to 45 when we came in. You had all the Labour front bench shouting, oh, tax cuts for millionaires, for your mates and all the rest of it. But then statistics show that the government raised more revenue from the high rate tax threshold when it was at 45 than at 50. And therefore,
Okay, so-
she was cutting 45 to 40, wasn't she? Further down. So the point is, it's not about taxes for millionaires. You ideologically hell-bent on
I didn't use
who
the term
is
millionaires. I didn't
getting
use
the
the term
tax
millionaires.
cuts. We look at it, it's about generating the maximum revenue for the Treasury, and that's what we all care about, to pay for everyone's public services, to pay for the country, pay for everything it needs. It's not matter who the taxes are for. If it generates more revenue, then that's a good idea.
The only way you could have paid for their proposals, by the way, was spending cuts, right? He's not said that. So she didn't fund these proposals.
Yeah, that's what we agree. Yeah,
That's
we
it.
No,
agree.
part of it was by
She would
growth.
subsequently have to announce. Growth, I agree, that was part of the
That was part of the funding
She
it.
would subsequently have to announce spending cuts. All I'm saying is that when he says there is no alternative, of course there's an alternative. Now the question
Same
is...
old,
the
same
Labour
old.
Party- the challenge for, no,
That's the
not true,
alternative.
Not true. The challenge for the Labour Party between now and the election is to demonstrate to the British people they have a credible alternative, which is about generating growth and is about making sure that inflation continues to fall. That's the challenge for the Labour Party going forward. This is not just an internal debate within the Conservative Party between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. It's about what is the Labour Party going to offer people that's going to be credible, but also going to be inspirational in terms of the future of the country. And one thing I agree with David 100% about this, we are in the mindset of managing decline as a nation.
For too
in
long.
every element of our national life, including the NHS and public services, as well as the
Productivity
economy.
across the board.
And we need to change that mindset if we're to have any chance
Yeah.
of having a brighter and better future. But it has to be rooted in credibility and deliverability. Because if you make promises you can't deliver, the public will be even more sceptical, frankly, and cynical than they are about politicians right